Dinar shift. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Imagine the surprise of market participants waking up one morning to find that a currency often confined to the corners of niche financial discussions is suddenly front and center in global Forex communities. This is the intriguing scenario currently unfolding with the Vietnam Dong, a development that has captured the attention of millions of traders and analysts around the world. The shift has sparked a collective, widespread question across platforms like Reddit, Telegram, Forex Factory, and various quiet discussion groups. What exactly is driving the intense focus on the Vietnam Dong now, in 2025, and how is this unexpected visibility influencing broader market conversations, especially within communities that monitor currencies like the Iraqi Dinar? Understanding this phenomenon requires a deep dive into the evolution of online trading, investor psychology, and the economic shifts occurring in Southeast Asia. This momentum, whether purely psychological or rooted in solid fundamentals, offers a compelling case study on how market momentum can be manufactured and amplified in the modern hyper-connected trading environment. We will break down every layer of this story in clear factual language, ensuring that even viewers new to the world of Forex can grasp the full significance of the unprecedented interest now surrounding the Vietnam Dong. The sudden surge in online discussion about the Vietnam Dong did not occur in a vacuum. It is a direct consequence of both underlying economic growth and the transformation of global Forex communities. For many years, the Dong remained a specialized topic, mainly followed by long-term speculators betting on the eventual impact of Vietnam's impressive economic expansion. However, the true change isn't just the economy. It's the visibility and synchronization of the trading community in 2025. Today's investors no longer wait for slow, traditional news agencies to deliver updates. Instead, they react almost instantaneously to minor chart movements, subtle shifts in market sentiment, and rapidly circulating global financial discussions shared through social media and specialized forums. This instant, hyper-connected environment acts as a massive amplifier for any early market signal, allowing information to propagate and create a snowball effect that was impossible in past decades. The mechanism that brought the Vietnam Dong into the spotlight is a perfect demonstration of this new amplification effect. Traders began noticing a small, but persistent, increase in conversations about the Dong, coupled with slightly elevated trading volume in specific markets and more widespread reports of Vietnam's ongoing economic and regulatory reforms. These seemingly small, isolated data points quickly compounded into a much larger, more significant conversation. The Dong's name rapidly began appearing in financial analysis streams, popular forums, specialized podcasts, and numerous YouTube commentary channels. This attention does not in itself signal a massive, imminent currency event, such as a major revaluation. What it definitively signals, however, is that the currency has moved from being a niche background asset to one occupying a prominent position in the collective market consciousness, a shift in perception that is highly significant in the world of speculative currency trading. A primary fundamental reason for the increased scrutiny is the growing trend among global investors to focus on currencies intrinsically linked to fast, growing, rapidly industrializing economies. Vietnam is widely recognized for expanding its high-value manufacturing sector, successfully attracting major international business partnerships, and consistently improving its overall economic stability and infrastructure. When a nation successfully strengthens its economic foundation and international trade relevance, even modest improvements in key financial metrics can immediately capture the attention of vigilant Forex enthusiasts. This principle, that strong economic fundamentals may eventually translate into currency appreciation, forms the bedrock of long-term speculative interest in emerging markets. This long-term outlook is a significant draw for the current wave of analytical attention focused on the Dong. What makes this particular episode especially noteworthy is the role of online communities in amplifying even minimal positive signals. Consider the impact of a single, insightful chart shared in a popular group chat, a well-written speculative post on a major social media platform, or a small but noticeable influx of early buyers entering the market. Each of these actions contributes to a perception of momentum, a feeling that significant underlying forces are at play. Forex communities thrive on the psychological concept of momentum, whether it is an accurate reflection of current fundamentals or a collective belief. The sheer possibility of early positioning fuels intense curiosity, encouraging thousands of individuals to ask if something substantial is forming just below the surface, even when concrete, dramatic evidence is scarce. This pervasive curiosity is the engine that drives further discussion, the creation of analytical content, and a host of public predictions, all of which only serve to further increase the overall attention directed at the Vietnam Dong. This is precisely why participants in related currency sectors, such as those following the Iraqi Dinar, are closely observing the situation. When one emerging currency gains significant, widespread online traction and visibility, it almost always inspires direct comparisons, strategy discussions, and intensified speculation across other similar emerging market currencies. The market's excitement over the dong creates a template for what attention and momentum can look like in the modern retail Forex landscape, offering comparative insights for other niche markets. Another critical factor to explore is the profound psychology inherent in modern Forex communities, particularly in 2025. The internet has successfully fostered an environment where traders are no longer solely focused on analyzing cold, hard charts. They are constantly monitoring each other's reactions and sentiment. When a particular segment of investors expresses strong excitement or confidence in a currency, it immediately prompts others to investigate the rationale behind that belief. When even minor rumors begin to circulate, the community races to either verify the claims with data or comprehensively debunk them. This collective, social, driven observation creates a powerful, self-feeding feedback loop that can swiftly elevate an overlooked currency into the trending category. The Vietnam Dong offers a compelling, almost clinical example of this social, driven momentum in action. The currency did not experience a sudden, dramatic spike in value or an unexpected overnight revaluation. The actual catalyst was the collective observation by online communities of consistent, small-scale positive narratives regarding Vietnam's economic progress and its steadily increasing importance in global trade. This perception, once established, immediately generated a host of questions that spread like wildfire. Is covert activity happening? Are major institutional investors subtly taking early positions? Is 2025 the year that emerging Asian currencies collectively gain heightened global scrutiny? These specific, rapidly circulating questions were more than enough to ignite the viral interest we are currently witnessing. The rise in curiosity regarding the dong is not confined just to Vietnam. It creates a ripple effect that influences broader investor sentiment, particularly among those who carefully track currencies like the Iraqi Dinar, as they seek to understand global patterns and macro shifts that could eventually impact their own holdings. The attention validates the strategy of focusing on smaller, long-term growth stories, providing psychological support for investors engaging in similar emerging market currency speculation. The entire phenomenon reinforces the interconnectedness of online financial speculation. A significant driver behind the sudden focus on the Vietnam dong is a shift in how investors are now valuing long-term potential over short-term volatility. Many active traders have expressed frustration with the limited, often predictable movement seen in the traditional major currencies, and are consequently redirecting their analysis toward emerging markets. These markets are perceived to offer the potential for more substantial, long-term opportunities for those who position themselves strategically early. The dong perfectly aligns with this thesis, not because it is currently undergoing a value explosion, but because it exhibits the key characteristics of a stable economic foundation capable of supporting considerable future appreciation. Online financial analysts frequently highlight that Vietnam has been consistently strengthening its trade alliances and logistical integration with major global economic partners. This trend is especially pronounced as major international corporations continue to seek lower, cost high, efficiency alternatives to traditional, more expensive manufacturing hubs. As these international partnerships become deeper and more formalized, investors naturally begin to contemplate the possibility that the country's currency might eventually experience a gradual, sustained upward pressure to reflect this economic maturity. This kind of thoughtful, forward-looking speculation naturally encourages people to study the dong's fundamentals more closely, ask targeted questions about its trajectory, and actively seek out potential future economic catalysts. What makes this period particularly engaging for the Forex community is the focus not on a sudden, dramatic price spike, but on the profound awareness that steady, verifiable economic activity often serves as a reliable precursor to fundamental, long-term market shifts. Because Forex communities are fundamentally fueled by anticipation and the quest for early advantage, this pervasive interest creates a powerful ripple effect. This effect compels an ever-increasing number of people to discuss, research, and continuously monitor the dong's behavior, creating a continuous loop of attention and analysis. The narrative of steady, underlying growth proves to be a powerful, sustained draw for sophisticated and retail speculators alike. Another important reason for the surge of conversation can be directly attributed to the symbiotic relationship between trending searches and financial commentators or influencers. When these content creators observe that a specific currency like the Vietnam dong is showing a sudden, sharp increase in search engine query frequency, they are strongly incentivized to produce relevant content to meet that evident demand. This newly generated content then immediately leads to an even greater level of interest, further conversation, and more widespread speculation, establishing a self-reinforcing content cycle. This cycle feeds upon itself, ensuring that even if the currency itself is not undergoing fundamental, groundbreaking changes on the charts, it remains a dominant topic of discussion. The Vietnam dong has become perfectly situated right in the center of this content-driven cycle. Financial influencers across all major platforms, including YouTube, TikTok, and major discussion forums, are all actively discussing the currency because they recognize and are capitalizing on the significantly increased demand for information and analysis. When the general public encounters videos or posts with thousands of views that intensely scrutinize the dong, they often make the reasonable, but sometimes premature, assumption that something genuinely significant must be actively transpiring, thus compelling them to immediately join the rapidly growing conversation. This social behavior multiplies across every digital platform, creating an intense momentum loop that rapidly builds psychological excitement. Consequently, many new investors who were previously unaware of the dong's existence now find themselves profoundly curious, diligently researching Vietnam's complex economic landscape and comparing its potential to that of other emerging market currencies. This widespread, community-driven curiosity is a primary reason why traders in dinar and similar communities are paying such close attention to this development. The sharp rise in organic conversation often serves as a reliable early indicator of broader market awareness and retail interest, frequently preceding any formal moves or announcements made by major institutional players. The retail attention creates the groundwork for perceived significance. A key point influencing the dong's sudden popularity is the rise of grassroots, community-driven analysis that characterizes the 2025 trading landscape. Traders are no longer content to rely solely on the major financial institutions for all their market insights. Instead, they actively share, debate, and interpret charts, complex theories, and economic data directly among themselves. These collective, community-generated insights can become extremely powerful when a very large group of individuals begins to focus its energy on a single, specific currency. The Vietnam dong has become a powerful case study in how decentralized grassroots analysis can effectively bring an overlooked currency into the full market spotlight. Individual traders began sharing focused observations about Vietnam's consistent, long-term trade growth, visible improvements in its financial infrastructure, and steadily increasing international political and economic attention. Other participants quickly contributed their own personalized theories, often linking the currency's documented stability to the potential for future, pre-announced policy changes. While none of this collective analysis definitively confirms an imminent major overnight revaluation, the collective, focused energy of thousands of networked traders successfully generates a powerful, pervasive sense of importance. This collective energy is precisely what draws an even greater number of people into the unfolding conversation. For followers of the Iraqi Dinar, this entire phenomenon is especially relevant and instructive. It clearly demonstrates the speed and power with which modern market psychology can shift, often based entirely on shared expectations and collective analysis. Savvy traders understand intuitively that when a sufficient number of people actively begin to analyze and continuously monitor the same currency, that focused attention alone possesses the inherent ability to influence the direction of trading activity, even if the fundamental economic data remains essentially steady or unchanged in the short term. The perception of activity becomes a critical market driver itself. The final major factor in this dynamic is the overarching role of economic optimism in shaping the entire discussion surrounding the Vietnam Dong. Investors in 2025 are keenly focused on identifying regions that offer genuine, long-term economic promise, especially as global financial cycles undergo structural resets and adjustments. Vietnam stands out as one of the key Asian nations that has demonstrably maintained a steady, resilient growth path, even during periods when many other economies faced significant struggles or contraction. This consistent performance creates a strong perception that Vietnam may be on the cusp of entering a new, more mature and influential stage of development on the global stage. Whenever a country appears to be structurally strengthening its economic position, investors naturally begin to wonder, often with great speculation, precisely how that strengthening will ultimately be reflected in the valuation of its national currency. As people diligently research Vietnam's expanding key industries, surging inbound tourism, rising export volumes, and steadily improving international reputation, they inevitably begin forming forward-looking expectations about the currency's future trajectory. These detailed expectations, even when they are not yet supported by dramatic, headline-making data, serve as the primary fuel for the most intense discussions within Forex communities. The dong thus transcends being merely a currency. It becomes a powerful symbol of future potential. This symbolic status is the reason why people continue to engage in persistent online discussions, constantly comparing the dong to other emerging currencies and deeply contemplating whether it could realistically follow a long-term, sustained upward trend. For active dinar holders, closely monitoring how this attention mechanism spreads provides invaluable insight into how investor sentiment alone can decisively shape the collective energy and focus surrounding a currency, often long before any official, formal financial events or announcements ever occur. The attention is a predictive indicator of future engagement. Another key factor underpinning the Vietnam Dong's sudden, dramatic increase in attention is the rigorous way online communities meticulously analyze macroeconomic indicators in conjunction with geopolitical stability. Today's traders look beyond simple charts. They pay intense attention to national government policies, complex international trade agreements, proactive inflation control measures, and the overall, holistic health of a nation's economy. Vietnam has been actively implementing comprehensive reforms specifically designed to strengthen its entire financial system, actively encourage direct foreign investment, and establish much more predictable regulatory frameworks for businesses operating within its borders. When Forex communities notice even minor but consistent improvements in these foundational areas, it immediately sparks a wave of focused interest. Stability, coupled with predictable, sustained growth, is a powerful signal suggesting that a currency may eventually be poised for appreciation in value. These important discussions are further amplified across social media groups, specialized forums, and active chat rooms where traders are continuously sharing real-time analysis, structured predictions, and timely news updates. For a significant number of participants, the current interest is not about reacting to a sudden, short-term price spike, but about understanding the deep, structural factors that are most likely to shape the dong's long-term trajectory over several years. The potent combination of a consistently stable domestic economy, explicitly supportive government fiscal policies, and increasingly active global trade participation creates a powerful perception that the dong is not merely just another minor, volatile currency. Instead, it is increasingly seen as one fundamentally worth watching and analyzing for long-term positioning. This perception alone significantly drives increased web traffic and focused attention, ensuring the dong remains a trending topic across major Forex circles, even before any dramatic or major moves are explicitly visible on the traditional trading charts. The narrative of stability is a massive psychological advantage, The next significant reason for the heightened attention is tied directly to the undeniable power of social proof within modern trading communities. When individual traders observe that large numbers of others are actively reacting to specific news reports, newly shared charts, or economic data, they frequently feel a powerful psychological compulsion to also investigate the very same currency. This is exactly the progression that occurred with the Vietnam Dong. Initial, small-scale discussions regarding its observable increasing stability and minor upticks in trade volume successfully captured the attention of early, influential community members. As these initial members began sharing real-time screenshots, personal chart interpretations, and their own investment theories, the number of people actively observing the Dong began to multiply exponentially across various platforms. New participants often logically interpret this rising community activity as a potent signal that something genuinely meaningful or impending could be occurring, even in the absence of formal, high-level announcements. In 2025, this specific type of social-driven awareness is more potent and faster than ever before, thanks to the immense speed and global reach of online platforms, which can now connect thousands of disparate traders across multiple countries in true real time. This environment successfully creates a powerful, positive feedback loop where interest continuously builds upon itself, ensuring the Dong's overall visibility continues to steadily increase. For those who watch the Iraqi Dinar, this provides a clear, undeniable reminder that sustained currency attention is not always initiated or dictated by government bodies or large institutions. Sometimes the most powerful and enduring attention originates organically from the community itself and spreads far faster and more effectively than any formal news cycle could ever hope to replicate. The grassroots power is undeniable. Another key, extraordinary reason why the Vietnam Dong is currently receiving such immense attention is the often overlooked role of quiet institutional positioning. While the retail traders and online communities are undeniably the primary drivers of awareness, major hedge funds, global banks, and other large financial institutions consistently and quietly monitor emerging market currencies to actively detect potential, high-reward opportunities. Even minute movements in overall trading volume, market liquidity, or the collective investor sentiment can be sufficient to trigger much closer scrutiny from these powerful larger players who control vast amounts of capital. When institutions first notice consistent, underlying activity around the Dong, they may begin the process of strategically positioning themselves, a move which implicitly validates the community's perception of the currency's growing importance. This dual attention, from both the highly visible online communities and the often covert institutional sector, creates a uniquely dynamic environment where the currency suddenly feels fully alive in the market. Retail traders interpret institutional interest as a strong confirmatory signal, while institutions sometimes adjust their own strategies based on observations of broader community behavior. This potent combination significantly magnifies the effect of even minor, subtle trends, which is why the Dong now sits at the very center of such widespread discussion. For followers of the Iraqi Dinar, observing this intricate process is absolutely essential. It clearly demonstrates how attention, anticipation, and proactive early positioning can profoundly influence not only emerging Asian currencies, but also other underappreciated currencies that may have been relatively dormant for extended periods. The convergence of retail and institutional interest proves to be a powerful, validating force in the modern Forex market. Finally, it is vital to fully consider how powerful psychological factors consistently drive the current surge of interest in the Vietnam Dong. Human market behavior often follows identifiable patterns that extend far beyond the confines of data, charts, and simple numbers. When traders collectively perceive that a currency is gaining significant momentum, it immediately triggers a potent cocktail of excitement, curiosity, and a powerful fear of missing out FOMO, all of which strongly motivates them to analyze, research, and deeply engage with the asset. This is precisely the psychological dynamic currently visible with the Dong. Even minor technical indicators, such as modest increases in average trading activity or slight, consistent upward movements in Forex charts, are intensely magnified because the online communities are already psychologically primed and actively searching for the next big opportunity. Discussion threads rapidly multiply, related videos are shared relentlessly, and more traders eagerly enter the conversation, collectively creating a palpable sense that something genuinely major is on the verge of unfolding. Despite the actual, measured changes in the currency's value potentially remaining relatively small, the collective, focused attention generates an intense energy that can sometimes directly translate into tangible, real market effects. For those who are closely monitoring currencies like the Iraqi Dinar, fully understanding this psychological dynamic is a critical key to strategic market interpretation. It demonstrates clearly that a currency does not require a dramatic, sudden spike to become highly relevant and talked about. The collective perception, shared sentiment, and powerful social reinforcement mechanisms are more than capable of creating waves of attention that attract widespread, sustained engagement and effectively influence future market behavior and capital flow. The Vietnam dong's current dominance in Forex community conversations can be significantly attributed to prevailing global supply chain trends. In 2025, global investors are paying unprecedented levels of attention to countries that are visibly improving their export efficiency, successfully attracting major international industrial investment, and becoming deeply integrated into regional and global trade networks. Vietnam has successfully emerged as a high-growth hub for diversified manufacturing, particularly in sectors like electronics, specialized textiles, and consumer goods, positioning it as a key focal point for sophisticated global supply chain diversification strategies. Forex communities diligently track this development because sustained, stronger trade activity almost universally translates into an increased, persistent demand for a country's national currency. When traders observe consistent export growth and a rising number of foreign business partnerships, they correctly interpret this as a strong signal of both economic stability and inherent growth potential. This positive perception acts as primary fuel for focused discussions, extensive online threads, and analytical videos that explore precisely how such fundamental economic improvements could inevitably affect the dong's value over an extended period. Even if no dramatically visible changes are immediately apparent on the short-term trading charts, the compelling narrative of a steadily growing, globally integrated and connected economy consistently attracts attention. Investors begin to proactively anticipate future monetary moves, a behavior which actively drives more intensive research, greater social discussion, and targeted strategic positioning. For followers of the Iraqi dinar, observing how these global supply chain dynamics influence attention on a similar emerging currency offers a valuable, transferable lesson on the critical intersection between expanding global trade and sustained Forex interest. Another crucial factor contributing to the dong's newfound visibility is the indispensable role of comparative analysis. Traders possess a strong inherent inclination toward comparisons, and when a currency like the Vietnamese dong begins to trend sharply, it naturally invites direct, explicit comparisons with other emerging market currencies, including the Iraqi dinar. Traders immediately begin evaluating critical differences in economic growth rates, the effectiveness of inflation control measures, the scope of government regulatory reforms, and the intensity of international trade engagement for each. These detailed, side-by-side analyses actively create more in-depth discussions, sophisticated predictions, and varied trading strategies, collectively driving a much deeper and more sustained community engagement. The dong quickly becomes a valuable benchmark or established reference point for investors who are systematically assessing the risk-reward profile and inherent opportunity within less traditional currency markets. The attention is frequently less about seeking immediate gains and more about establishing potential, valuable long-term positioning and discerning which currencies might become structurally more influential over time. As more traders engage in these rigorous comparisons of emerging currencies, the dong directly benefits from significantly amplified visibility. Social media platforms, in particular, dramatically amplify every posted analysis, every shared chart, and every interpretation, feeding a continuous and intense loop of engagement. This constant comparative lens strongly encourages people to follow Vietnam's financial news much more closely, continuously monitor any changes in trading volume trends, and proactively anticipate policy moves. For followers of other currencies, including the Iraqi Dinar, this highlights the profound interconnectedness of Forex discussions and how the popularity of one specific currency can quickly influence much broader market awareness across the board. Another significant reason why online communities are so intensely focused on the dong is the increasing critical importance of market sentiment. In 2025, the collective feeling or sentiment about a currency often drives sustained engagement more powerfully than mere short-term press movement. Experienced investors have internalized the fact that understanding how the overall community feels about a currency can be just as powerful, if not more so, than knowing its exact technical value at any specific moment in time. When traders observe consistently positive discussions, rapidly increasing interest, and repeated, detailed mentions of the dong, it generates a pervasive perception of upward momentum. Even if the core technical indicators reveal only minor, subtle changes, this strong positive sentiment can profoundly affect trading behavior, actively encouraging more in-depth analysis, earlier strategic positioning, and heightened attention to subtle shifts in underlying market activity. For many followers of emerging currencies, this particular type of psychological influence is central to their strategic planning process. When one currency successfully gains credibility through positive community sentiment, it often triggers a powerful domino effect, effectively drawing the attention of investors who may have otherwise entirely ignored it. This psychological dynamic powerfully amplifies interest in the dong and clearly demonstrates why observing community discussions is absolutely critical for anyone diligently monitoring modern Forex trends. The rising interest in the dong is also intimately related to the strategic concept of preemptive positioning. Traders are continually attempting to anticipate future economic and monetary changes before they become widely accepted or publicly recognized by the broader market. Vietnam's consistent, measurable growth, its regulatory reforms, and its rising global engagement have strongly encouraged this specific type of behavior. Investors are actively entering discussions, deep analysis forums, and chat groups, meticulously analyzing charts, trading volume, and economic data in an effort to position themselves advantageously ahead of potential future trends. This preemptive approach does not require dramatic current price shifts. It actively thrives on shared anticipation and the interpretation of early, subtle signals. The dong, by its repeated, frequent appearance in these intense conversations, directly benefits from the focused attention of a community of traders actively preparing for potential future value changes. Online discussions significantly magnify this effect because traders openly share their specific observations and hypotheses, which collectively creates more overall engagement and pervasive curiosity. The attention currently being given to the dong clearly illustrates how anticipation-driven interest can successfully create real-time discussion waves and opportunities for early positioning, a key lesson for dinar watchers. Another major contributing factor to the dong's popularity is the broad global focus on Asia as a cohesive economic whole. Investors are increasingly viewing the continent not merely as a low-cost manufacturing center, but as a long-term, powerful economic engine that will drive future global growth. Countries like Vietnam, which have historically been significantly underrepresented in major, mainstream Forex discussions, are now being subjected to much closer and more extensive scrutiny. This macro focus brings immediate attention to its emerging currencies, compelling the community to delve much deeper into market fundamentals, economic policy, and detailed trade statistics. As an increasing number of traders explore the full potential of these Asian currencies, the dong naturally becomes a powerful symbol of potential opportunity within the region. Its heightened visibility strongly encourages cross-border dialogue, in-depth research, and sophisticated analysis, which all further fuel the attention loop. For observers of the Iraqi dinar, this clear focus on Asia highlights the deeply interconnected nature of emerging markets and how significant interest in one specific region can powerfully inspire comparative evaluation and strategic thinking elsewhere. The dong's popularity is not an isolated event. It is firmly rooted in a broader trend where regional economic optimism actively generates widespread Forex engagement and speculation. Another factor powerfully shaping the dong's traction is the high clarity of information and transparency in official reporting. In today's highly scrutinized trading environment, participants tend to gravitate toward currencies where market movements are both easily observable and reliably verifiable. Vietnam's established transparency in its trading data, key economic indicators, and policy updates collectively reassure traders that their discussions are grounded in verifiable reality, rather than mere speculation or unconfirmed rumor. Verified market activity, even in the form of small fluctuations, strongly encourages more traders to analyze the trends and actively participate in the conversation. This sense of established legitimacy is critically important in 2025 because online communities are remarkably quick to reject any data that feels unverified, manipulated, or purely speculative. The dong's high degree of credibility, when combined with its proven emerging market potential, significantly strengthens its position as a dominant topic of discussion. Community members express a much greater willingness to monitor its charts, analyze the data rigorously, and engage in detailed strategic planning because the underlying information feels inherently trustworthy and reliable. For Iraqi Dinar holders, the key takeaway is clear. Verified, transparent data consistently draws sustained attention, detailed discussion, and serious strategic engagement in ways that mere rumors alone can never reliably replicate. The necessary focus on verification and legitimacy also critically intersects with the essential concept of risk management. Forex traders are perpetually evaluating the safety, long-term stability, and potential upside of any speculative investment. Vietnam's steady, ongoing economic reforms, its visibly consistent trade activity, and its emerging international credibility collectively suggest that the dong presents a lower perceived risk profile when compared to less transparent, more opaque emerging currencies. This positive perception actively encourages a greater number of people to openly discuss, analyze, and continuously monitor the currency's progress. By actively participating in demonstrably verified trends, traders feel they are aligning themselves with a safer, more credible long-term opportunity, a feeling which significantly drives increased engagement across forums, chat groups, and social media discussions. The attention is further intensified because community members actively share verified charts, confirmed trends, and trusted interpretations, successfully creating a strong network effect where more people are continuously drawn into the conversation. For Iraqi Dinar followers, the lesson is paramount. Legitimacy, verifiability, and transparent market signals matter significantly when communities are evaluating emerging currency opportunities for both stability and growth. Another significant reason for the dong's prominent spotlight is the powerful alignment between intense community attention and ongoing institutional monitoring. When large volumes of retail traders and numerous online forums begin discussing a specific currency, major financial institutions routinely take note to ensure they fully understand the emerging collective sentiment and any potential early retail positioning. This creates a powerful, mutually reinforcing loop. Institutions implicitly validate the trending narrative, which actively encourages more community attention, and increased community attention signals potential early opportunity to the institutions themselves. The Vietnam dong has significantly benefited from this unique alignment throughout 2025, successfully attracting a rare combination of both grassroots enthusiasm and professional focus. This symbiotic effect directly increases the perceived importance of the currency, even if short-term, day-to-day trading activity remains moderate and stable. For Iraqi Dinar holders, observing this structural alignment provides crucial insights into precisely how momentum successfully develops in the modern Forex market, and how focused attention from both the retail and professional sectors can effectively amplify interest and perceived future opportunity across various emerging markets. Finally, the unique and powerful combination of verifiable macroeconomic potential, deep community-driven interest, established social proof, and observable institutional awareness fully explains why the Vietnam dong is currently receiving such massive, sustained attention in Forex community. Today, it is not attributable to a single, isolated factor, but rather the complex intersection of multiple reinforcing dynamics that collectively drives the palpable excitement. Traders are organically drawn to the dong because of Vietnam's documented economic stability, high transparency, and sustained trade growth. Online communities then effectively amplify even minor, subtle signals through extensive discussion, sentiment analysis, and shared research. Institutions diligently monitor these patterns, which implicitly validates the narrative and actively encourages further public interest. The overarching effect is a powerful, self-reinforcing cycle of attention, research, and early positioning, which is successfully creating real-world momentum, even if the actual price changes remain gradual and predictable. For Iraqi Dinar followers and all emerging currency enthusiasts, the dong's widespread popularity serves as a compelling demonstration of how modern Forex attention mechanisms truly function. In 2025, perception, market psychology, transparency, and strategic positioning all powerfully converge to create significant, lasting market buzz. Understanding these complex, modern patterns provides a functional roadmap for accurately recognizing which currencies may successfully gain similar traction next, and precisely how sophisticated, community-driven engagement fundamentally shapes the most important modern Forex trends.